what did you think of Mario plus Rabbids?
I loved it.
I love to hear that. What's your evolution? You started playing it, and then give me the roller coaster of emotions.
Well, I went into it, I guess, a little hopeful that it could be good because I have played some XCOM and enjoyed it, and I was looking forward to a different kind of take on that. You don't get wacky tactical strategy turn-based games.
Codename
really?
Steam says hello, but yes, you're right.
All right. Yeah, well, I didn't play that one. Not the hugest Nintendo fan either, as you, I'm sure, already know.
Biggest Rabbids fan in the office.
Yes. Yeah.
Show 'em that tat.
I was wearing my T-shirts and
plunger
bunny
on your
ears.
face.
Yep. But no, it takes a little while to get going to, kind of unlock some of the characters and go through all the different abilities and unlock your skill trees and stuff like that. But I was surprised by how different it actually ended up being from XCOM, kind of the feeling. Even though they take a lot from it, if you have seen video of it, it looks like just the overlays and stuff like that, is clearly cribbing from XCOM.
Yeah.
But the feeling of it is a lot faster and you have a lot more mobility with your characters.
I'm very interested in this because, I'd seen videos here and there, and it's like, okay, I understand it's XCOM, but it really wasn't until I started playing it last night that it was this wave of, oh, I forgot that this feels almost exactly like XCOM. It's bizarre putting Mario basically in Overwatch mode, and then he's firing in slow motion as somebody's running. It was upsetting.
It looks better than XCOM, though. Like, you're not firing through walls.
That's exactly it. I think it's because the environments are simpler. I think the camera movement in this game is really, really well done, and it might even be cleaner than XCOM's, but I think that is because of the complexity of XCOM's maps compared to this. Or at least early on, it's just like, hey, here's 14 blocks that you hide behind, and that's about it. But as the game went on, you felt like it differed more and more.
Yeah, and I think it's mostly because of the movement mechanics and kind of the team combinations and stuff, the team jumps, and then the fact that you can attack enemies during the movement phase as well. You kind of do dash attacks and head stomps and those kind of things. And so that kind of just completely changes your view of movement, where I think in XCOM it's like, well, what's the closest cover that I can get behind in order to, take pot shots at these guys? Whereas here it's like, well, okay, I have to be able to run straight up and hit these 3 people in a row, and then hopefully I can, retreat somewhere after that. But
so just basic tips. Vader, you've been playing a lot of it too. I'm sorry for calling you Vader.
That was weird.
That's
Jeff,
the first time it's ever happened.
It really is. So every move I should be trying to run over to enemies and slide into them and then run away?
I guess it depends on how you build your characters out, but the dash attacks are the ones that you increase the power of quite a bit, and some of them are more helpful, like Rabbid Luigi. His is a vampire attack, so when you hit them, you also leech enemy from them, and then that
leech health.
Yes. Did I say enemy?
Yeah,
that makes no sense.
You leash an enema.
Yeah, but the status effect stays on them, so then everyone else can leech enemas off of them too for the rest of that turn. And so I didn't have a traditional medic in my, makeup of my 3 characters. I would just use him first, and then everyone else can also grab health from whoever he hits first.
Are you saying you didn't want to have Peach Rabbid with you the whole time?
She seems cool.
Yeah, she's the weakest of the Rabbid characters.
Wow.
And so you always have to have 1 Rabbid in your party, is that right?
At least 1, yeah. But I ended up having 2 most of the time.
You wild lad.
I don't like that you have to have Mario with you the whole time.
Yeah, he's the weakest link in the...
You have to have Mario with you?
What's your problem, Leo? What do you have against Mario?
I just don't like being told to like Mario.
Right. What is this?
Well, you're one of those new age gamers that has no love for Mario, right?
Sure. No nostalgia for Mario.
No nostalgia. I love that. I love that perspective. And so you prefer not to have them. You want more Rabbid Luigis in your party?
I wish they would at least pretend that they have like a world full of interesting characters, and it's not just like this little red nostalgia man that they have to parade out.
It is kind of upsetting to watch Mario get shot and die. And I realized, I don't know why it has an impact on me, because I've watched Mario die, especially when I play Jeff Cork, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of times. But for some reason, seeing him get shot to death and dying on a battlefield, I know it's just a little sparkles and dizzy around his head, but it's still upsetting to see.
And he pulls out the picture of Peach that she's autographed and looks at it as his eyes flutter closed.
Yeah, it's covered in blood. He's trying to hand it to somebody, like Saving Private Ryan.
Oh.
It is also weird just to have them running around with guns, though, too. That was the first thing that stood out to me. Of
what do they call them? Like, I know paintball people get really
Glocks is what they call them. It's interesting.
yeah,
murder machines.
Uzis.
Yeah.
I think they're just blasters or whatever. But there were times where I'd be like, okay, I'm going to run up to this guy because he only has a little bit of health, so I'm going to stand right next to him and shoot him point blank in the face with Mario's blaster.
Also, in the cutscene, Mario seems surprisingly into that gun when he first gets it. It's like when MacGruber first uses a gun in the movie. He's like, holy crap, this is awesome. Well, I've been jumping on enemies this entire time. This makes no sense.
Throwing fire from my hands when I could use a gun.
That opening video, Fava, I'm sure you've played so much of this game. It was a lifetime ago. But seeing it last night for the first time, very confusing. Because not only are they combining the world of Mario and Rabbids together, but technically there's a third universe, which in theory is our human universe, but it's within the Ubisoft universe. So maybe it could be the same world as Assassin's Creed or The Division. I'm sure Abstergo. There's some Easter egg in there somewhere. So it's a human being that's basically a Palmer Luckey type, right? Where it makes some elaborate gun that can combine two different universes.
You're better off not knowing anything about them.
Right. I saw some pretty disturbing pamphlets and paperwork on the desk, but that's just fine. And then Rabbids warp in magically
From the time machine, yeah.
And so is that common Rabbids lore that they have a time machine?
I think so.
Okay. You didn't
I think they went and got farted on by a dinosaur at one point.
Yeah. That's not far off, yeah.
Yeah.
I think they had one game where it was just like, hey, let's take them through time and they'll meet Napoleon or whatever.
Okay.
Crap like that.
So then the premise, they try and logic away this entire fusion, but I'm still confused because they show up, this gun that can combine any two objects, then combines Rabbids and Mario, then they are warped to the Mushroom Kingdom, but then a vortex appears in the Mushroom Kingdom, all the Mario characters get sucked into it, and so then you'd think they'd be in a separate dimension yet, but they still explain it as it being the Mushroom Kingdom.
Yeah, it's interesting.
I don't know if it's interesting, but it is a much more convoluted setup for, like, just put the two cute, funny things together and let's get it over with here.
Yeah, there's some interesting stuff with that about, like, this object was tiny in our world, but now it's giant here. What's up with that? I wish we brought a burrito through, is the joke they make. So that was pretty good.
Joke.
What do you
that
think
kind of makes it all worthwhile.
Do you think it's funny overall, Jeff? Were you charmed? Did you laugh ever?
Yeah, there's some stuff in there. There's one boss fight that I don't want to spoil, but that had me chuckling a little. I think it's ultimately just a fun tone, and very lighthearted, and I appreciated that.
And again, it's just some slapstick comedy. Yeah, there's a couple butt jokes in the beginning, but again, I don't understand why the industry hates Rabbids games so much. The only thing I can possibly figure is maybe just reviewers that were forced to review Rabbids game after Rabbids game on the Wii and learned to hate it, and then that opinion filters down?
Yeah, it's the internet. Anything that some people find cute is going to just repulse everyone else.
It's also, I mean, I'm not super bothered by it. I like this game if I haven't said anything good about it so far. But it really is kind of in your face with the Rabbids. I can see how it would get on your nerves. Like, it'll constantly tear the camera away to go look at some slapstick thing the Rabbids are doing. It doesn't feel very optional. It feels like it's trying to make the Rabbids work, which keep on trying. Ubisoft, do your best.
Like within cutscenes and whatnot?
Yeah.
Also, it's interesting. It's like correct me if I'm wrong, but you never actually control Mario in this game. It's like the Ubisoft condom. You can get close. You can never quite touch Mario, right? Because you're just controlling Beepo, the little Roomba going around, right?
Right.
It's an odd touch.
Yeah.
But I think it works out well. Like, it's a brilliant idea to have, like XCOM 2, there's like loot on the battlefield and whatnot, right? And with this, there's naturally coins everywhere. And so you think, like, okay, strategically, I have to work my way over there and take up the time. But it's like, no, you just have a little cursor, which is the Roomba thing, and you can just run it over there and collect them all, and it won't cost you a single thing.
Yeah.
It seems like a much easier, more approachable route overall.
Yeah.
Does this game get hard?
It does. I didn't have any super hard problems. There were a couple matches that I had to do a couple times but ultimately I just quit out of them. Like after you lose a character, it's like, oh, this is going downhill, whatever, I'll just restart it.
Because there's no permadeath, right?
Yes, and yeah. But and that's another thing that kind of changes the feeling of it, and that I appreciated is if you lose a match, you just restart it, and there's no kind of penalty to it. And the nice thing about that is that means you can actually experiment and, you know, be a little riskier when you're moving your characters around. You don't have to think, oh, I spent 20 hours upgrading this character. I don't want to lose him on this one battle, you know, doing something stupid. But here you can just kind of run into it and see if it works, or rebuild your skill trees. You can respec at any time.
Plus, all the skill points you get go to every character you have.
Yeah.
So every character is leveling at the same rate, so you can switch in and out and experiment.
Yeah, you don't have to worry about, well, I haven't been using this character, so he's going to be underpowered. Or
I feel like you're tiptoeing up to this point. Is there a world where you got more enjoyment out of this game than in any of the most recent XCOM games?
You know, it's hard to say because I never completed one of the modern XCOM games, but we did that Rabbids and XCOM mashup yesterday.
There's a video on the site. Check it out. It's lovely.
And, you know, Reeves was kind of playing through a normal match, and the entire time I just thought, this is really slow compared to, you know, what I had just played through, you know, spent so much time on.
Yeah.
So
and
it's kind of weird.
It does feel so dynamic just having more, what's the word I'm looking for? More of like combos where you can run and slide and then jump over there, and having the camera adapt to it. It does feel really good at times to play, shockingly good.
Yeah.
Also, what do you think about like the overworld? If you want to call it that. In between battle areas.
Oh, yeah. Those were the biggest downside to the game for me. It's, you know, they have puzzles in there, which would have been great if the puzzles were interesting. But they're really just kind of like pushing blocks around or pressing switches to, you know, change paths and things like that. And that, you know, never was really engaging. There was never a puzzle where I was like, oh, that was cool. You know, I'm glad I figured that out. And the rewards aren't super great for most of them either.
And it seems like, if you find a little bonus area, it's like, hey, here's a 3D model. Everyone's favorite thing. You can go rotate it if you want back home.
Occasionally you'll get a new weapon, or you'll get some ability orbs, which are your skill points. And, you know, those are at least worth something. But
that's what I'm always hoping for. It's ability orbs.
Yeah,
at the end of every single puzzle.
Please, for the love of God. Does the story get interesting at the end? In the beginning, there are a couple weird teases where you're getting emails from the biggest fan in the world. I have no idea who that could possibly be. Am I not enough of a Mario?
I thought I missed it. Who is FB?
It's a secret that you'll learn, and you'll just be blown away by it.
Is it fun?
Bowser?
No.
Fun Bowser?
Fabbit Bowser.
It's Fight Bowser.
It's just goofy, and
it's goofy.
It's dumb.
Okay. Yeah. Everything's dumb, but it's just the progression actually builds out in a way where you were compelled to keep playing.
Yeah. The gameplay stayed engaging throughout. You know, the difficulty curve was good for the most part. I hit a couple patches, and then they unlocked these ultimate challenges at the end. I think there are 4. You know, it's kind of like in the virtual world style. You know, you may have done a couple puzzles like that already.
Yeah.
They're not interesting. You know, there's not an interesting aesthetic to the battlegrounds for that ones, but they just throw, you know, tons of the mid bosses and, you know, bosses from the main into these really huge fights. And that's kind of when I realized, like, the combat and, you know, all the abilities, and you have everything really gives you a lot of leeway, and you can actually get a lot out of it.
Speaking of mid-boss, the music for the mid-bosses is so
crazy.
good.
It is so good.
It's all Kirk Hope, friend of the show, composer for GoldenEye, Perfect Dark. I mean, some of the best, but specifically Banjo-Kazooie. Like, the entire soundtrack sounds very Banjo-Kazooie, and especially those mid-boss encounters. It's uncanny.
Yeah.
But just an overall delight. They have, like, music from Mario 64 when you're around Peach's Castle, which is kind of like the hub area where you have different shops and whatnot to go travel to. I want, not that you aren't this person, Jeff, I want, like, a strategy game expert to talk to me just about how it feels different than XCOM in relation to not having hit percentages like XCOM.
Yeah.
Or if they are there, well, I guess it's either 50% or 100%.
Yes,
and
or
that's
0%.
It.
Yeah.
Right. It's so crazy just to boil that all down to 3 states, and it really warps your mind when you're used to XCOM about, like, well, if I get closer, no percentage is going up, I don't think.
Yeah, and that almost gives it more of a puzzly feel in some ways of trying to figure out, you know, where you're going to place your characters. There's never that question of if this is going to hit. So it's a different feeling, but
you definitely have to learn the rules of it, because there have been times where I'd be expecting I move to this place and I'll have a shot on this guy, but they're technically in full cover, and even though it looks like they can see him, they technically don't have line of sight.
it will pop up the percentage above them even as you're moving the icon around.
Okay.
But that will also take into account your secondary weapons. And so maybe you can hit them with the rocket launcher just because it does such a huge area of effect, damage, but you won't be able to get a normal shot with it. So
Interesting.
Overall, this game feels like a game that should have been prototyped and then never released. It's a happy accident that this thing was actually published and released out there. And
yeah,
there's a
I
big
don't know.
marketing
I don't
push.
know how Nintendo signed off on that because it's so different for them. And to just be, giving their character over, I guess they've done like, Mario and Sonic Olympics and crap like that.
They get
So-
it to every
That had a
publisher.
certain standard of quality.
Leo, so you're in love with this game? Madly, deeply, truly?
I like it a lot.
Are you a big XCOM guy?
I am. I
Okay.
expected it. I went into it kind of thinking, oh, this is going to be like easy XCOM, which is great because I want to scratch all those itches in my brain, but without, anything actually ever going wrong.
Naturally.
It's actually been substantially difficult, I've found, at least in the second world, like going into it. You have to really play smart. It's like a simpler XCOM, but it's definitely not easy XCOM.
Are you switching into that easy mode? Because at the start of a lot of fights, it gives you the option to like, hey, want to just coast through this one?
I haven't done that. I don't know if that
Yeah.
lessens your rewards.
I don't think it does, but all it does is it will replenish your health if you have done a couple battles before that, which your health gets replenished after like every 2 or 3 battles anyway.
Okay.
And then it will give you 50% more health.
Oh.
But the couple times I used it, I didn't see like a difference in how the enemies attack you or anything like that. So
Okay.
it just seems to be a little bit of a health boost.
It's just so cool. I understand everyone constantly says this about the Switch, but it's so nice to have, even if it's an XCOM clone, to have an XCOM in handheld you can take with you. It looks great on the small screen. I noticed you played a
Yeah, I
majority
played
of it. on
almost
that.
the entire thing that way. Yeah.
Why'd you do that?
Because it's perfectly fine, and it's just more comfortable to, sit on a couch and have it right in front of you.
Yeah.
And the controls and everything worked great for it. So
Cork, is there a world where you're going to play this game?
I watched Fava play the game, and it seemed like a perfectly fine game that I will never play.
Well,
it seemed
I think
like
that's your loss, man.
yeah,
I think it might be better than you think. I think it's easy to see it as like, oh, Mario, XCOM, I get it. But it turns out it's still a fun loop to go through over and over and over again.
yeah.
What'd you end up giving it, Faba?
8.5.
Look at that. 8.5.
There
Leo,
you
anything
go.
else you want to get off your chest?
I gave it a 10 out of 10.
Thank you so much for watching this excerpt from the Game Informer Show podcast. You can subscribe to the audio version and listen to new episodes airing every Thursday. We cover big games on the horizon, games that we've just reviewed. We have long-form developer interviews, a lot of fun stuff. So check it out every Thursday.